All right, let's now take a little bit of a closer look at the Auburn football team. We're going to bring in Mike Gittens. He is with the War Report heading into his 5th season covering the Auburn Tigers. Mike, what do you think of those Tigers this year?
I think that it is a do or die season for Auburn. The first 2 years definitely were sub par for Hugh Freeze. But what they did do well was they recruited well. And that recruiting has got to pay off in wins this season. The first 2 seasons, obviously losing seasons to start. That's something that's got to change. There's been a lot of investment into Auburn football so far, and I expect that it's going to pay off this year. Hugh Freeze appears to have the quarterback that he wants, and that's been what I would say a missing piece for them to get them to that next level. The wide receiver room is going to be one of the best in the country, and if Auburn can get scoring going, the Tigers have a chance to win a lot of football games.
You already sort of touched on it, but I think we really do got to dig into that. This is year 3 for Hugh Freeze. The expectation for Auburn fans seems to be we are not okay with the 500 season anymore. Of course, 6-7 in year 1, 5-7 in year 2. What realistically do you think needs to happen on the field this year for Auburn fans to feel like, okay, legitimate progress was made and we'll keep moving forward?
Well, the bar has kind of moved. So you fired Gus Malzahn because you were not okay with 8-4 seasons, and he was good for that almost every single year. So you bring Hugh Freeze in after that 2-year stint with Brian Harsin, and then NIL becomes a thing, and you have to look at what they have on paper. It's actually pretty remarkable. So I think fans now are expecting somewhere with Auburn in the conversation come November. They've got to be in the conversation come November. And now what does that look like? That means that in their first 6 games, they need to clean that slate. I think 3-3 would be disappointing. You got Baylor, Ball State, South Alabama to kick off your season, and then you open SEC play: Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Georgia. If they can get out of that 4-2, Nick, you have a chance after Georgia to really do some damage and go into the Iron Bowl as an 8 or 9 win team. And come November, Auburn needs to be in the discussion. The precedent has been set. 10 wins in the SEC gets you in the playoff. Alabama had a chance at it. 9 wins, didn't get in. Ole Miss had that same shot. 9 wins, didn't get in. South Carolina, same thing. A great end run to their season, winning 6 straight, but they didn't get in. Missouri, they would have been a lock to make the playoffs. 9 wins, didn't get in. If you're Auburn, I think fans will accept being in the conversation in November. And it's a very manageable November slate for them. I mean, they end their season Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer, Alabama. So the Iron Bowl has got to be relevant from the Auburn side again, and that means Auburn stepping it up come November.
Absolutely. I was going to listen right after they play Auburn. I'm sorry, after Auburn plays Georgia, excuse me. Auburn hosts Missouri, goes to Arkansas, hosts Kentucky, goes to Vandy, hosts Mercer, and then it's the Iron Bowl. Now let's talk about continuity, right? That's so important in football. Year 2 now, year 3 for Hugh Freeze, year 2 with Hugh Freeze, Derek Nixon, DJ Durkin. How important is that continuity? And do you think it's going to finally pay off this year?
Continuity is king. The opportunity to keep your coordinators, to keep most of your staff together, and look, you mentioned DJ Durkin. Auburn made him the 2nd highest paid assistant in the country this offseason for a reason. That defense did a great job, all things considered, last year, keeping Auburn in football games. If you look at the 7 games that they lost, nobody really ran away from Auburn on the scoreboard. It was actually remarkable. Yeah, they lost to Vanderbilt 17-7. And everyone says, oh, Diego Pavia is the Hugh Freeze Slayer. Well, he went 9 for 22 in that ball game, and they only posted 17 points. If anything, he's the Kalen DeBoer Slayer because he posted 40 on the board in Alabama's defense. I think that if Auburn can hold serve defensively and the offense can step it up, they've got a chance to be really, really good this year. And this schedule provides the opportunity for them to have some tests early, figure out what kind of football team they are, and then ride that potential streak after the Georgia game, as you mentioned, home versus Missouri, on the road versus Arkansas. You got Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer. The most winnable stretch of Auburn football I think I've seen in 25 years. So this will be exciting to watch. I can't stress enough, Nick. Fans want to see this team actually play to its potential because they were better than their 5-7 record last year. I think coaching had a lot to do with why they finished sub 500. I would say the same thing about Hugh Freeze's first year. Can he get the most out of this roster in year 3? Well, in my one-on-one with Hugh Freeze, he thinks he has the roster to do more of what they normally do offensively, which is what they feel like has really been limiting them the first 2 years. It's we haven't had the type of personnel we need, so we've limited the playbook. This year, maybe you see the playbook open up offensively, and they can give the defense some help there and score some points.
So much of last year, right, was they couldn't close, and I think part of that, I'm sure, what Auburn fans, and I'm sure what is the maybe the highest case chance for that changing is potentially the quarterback. You mentioned coaching, but also the quarterback. Let's talk about Jackson Arnold. His numbers don't jump off the page at you from last year at Oklahoma. About 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Do you like Jackson Arnold to lead this offense? Is Auburn in good hands?
I think that potentially, yes. You got to look at his situation in Oklahoma last year. No, the numbers don't jump off the page. Their entire wide receiver room got hurt last year. The offensive line was a mess. The offensive coordinator got fired midseason. Jackson Arnold was a part of a really chaotic system last year, and he's going to have stability on the plains. Now, Hugh Freeze said a scout told him that 6 of his linemen on this roster would receive draftable grades. If they play to that potential, then Jackson Arnold's going to have a lot more time to throw the ball than he had at Oklahoma last year. So hopefully what we see is we see a poised Jackson Arnold. But I think what's important for fans to know is how they how they built this team. The idea behind this team was let's raise the floor around him. Let's get him the best wide receivers. Let's get him all SEC caliber running backs. And then let's call plays in a manner that he can succeed and have a very high floor for failure. The issue with Auburn has been the the difference between the ceiling and the floor has been so large, and you've got to tighten that down. You've got to raise that floor to where, hey, look, in the worst of scenarios, we're winning 7 games, and the best of scenarios, we're in the college football playoff.
You picked your offensive stuff. Of course, Jackson Arnold, quarterback. You lose Keandre Lambert-Smith and Jarquez Hunter. Obviously, they're both off the NFL. You said you really like this wide receiver room. Talk to me offensively. What kind of weapons does Auburn have this year?
Well, big news on the plains recently. Malcolm Simmons has been cleared fully. As you know, he was charged in a domestic violence incident. The judge reviewed his legal team's request for youthful offender status that would have had him essentially not admit guilt, but have the record sealed. And it appears that they've dismissed it completely. So, that's a big win for Auburn football. He's going to be a huge piece of what they want to do this year. But look, you've got Cam Coleman. He was a top 5 overall recruit coming out of high school. He's played like it in his freshman year. He's going to be an NFL draft pick, Nick. It doesn't matter where he plays football. He's good. You bring in Eric Singleton Jr. from Georgia Tech. Early reports are he's got a 4.2 40-yard dash, which is blazing fast, and he's going to be terrorizing defense if they can get the ball in his hands in stride this season. And then you've got Perry Thompson, who is a top 30 overall recruit. I think he was I think On3 had him rated the 28th best recruit in the country. So he's going to be opposite Cam Coleman on the outside. So if they run 10 personnel and you get 4 receivers on the field, you've got top 5 overall on one side, top 30 overall on the other side, a potential first-round draft pick in a slot, and another burgeoning and surging receiver in Malcolm Simmons, who was huge for them last year, making plays. Those 4 on the field at the same time, pick your poison. They're going to have a lot of say in how Auburn's football games turn out.
Let's flip the script now to defense. At the 3 levels, what do you like about Auburn's defense? What maybe needs some work and some question marks heading into week 1,
Yeah.
just a couple weeks?
Yeah, I have question marks on defensive line. Not a ton, just a couple. But I think that the linebacker room is strong. Reports are Robert Woodyard is looking to be the linebacker opposite of DeMarcus Riddick. DeMarcus Riddick, again, another one of those top 100 recruits that as a Georgia kid that flipped to Auburn, and so far, he's played a lot his freshman year. if he takes the next step this year, Auburn's going to be really tough to beat at those first two levels. And then you have a secondary that should be one of the best units in the country. I like Ken Lee, Jay Crawford. They've just got so many guys that can make plays in that secondary. You bring in Rayshawn Pleasant. I don't know, man. DJ Durkin, as I mentioned, they were one of the best scoring defenses in the country last year, allowing only 21 points per game. They really kept teams off the scoreboard and kept Auburn in football games. They need to work on third down defense. It was atrocious last year. It was 2012 levels of bad. But I expect them to make that jump. I expect them to be in better situations, and I expect them to get off the field and get Auburn's offense the ball back quite a bit this year.
Specialists up here in North Alabama. We know all about McPherson family. How big is it to have him back this year? Hopefully for an entire season. Now that he's recovered from his ailment last year. And punter situation. What's the real specialist grouping looking like heading into 2025?
Well, McPherson is a huge win to get back. And in my talks with Hugh Freeze one-on-one, he believes that missing Alex McPherson cost them at least 2 football games last year. And when you look at the tape, I have to agree with him. Because Auburn could not trust their kicking game, they did some unusual things on fourth down in the opponent's territory that they wouldn't normally have done, where you just take the points. So at least 2 games, maybe even a third game that they lost, if they had a solid kicking game, they win those games. So what it comes down to is Alex McPherson comes from a strong football pedigree. He is going to be one of the best kickers in the country, voted third team preseason all SEC by us, the media, at SEC Media Days this year, because people recognize that he's good. He's going to be a solid kicker. He's going to be a top 3 kicker in the league this year. Now, at punter, you've got Hudson Cock, who is having a really, really good offseason here as well, too. Field position is going to be important, and he's going to help them there as well. So, the special teams is one of those things, Nick, where it goes very unheralded until you need them. Or until they don't do something well and the game's on the line and you got to call on your kicker to make a tough kick in the fourth quarter to pull the game close or make it a 1-score game or maybe take the lead or win the game. And Auburn seems to have that settled this year. They had a scrimmage this past weekend. Alex McPherson made a 50-yarder in that scrimmage. So it's looking up for them in special teams.
Talk about recruiting. We'll talk in a second about season predictions, but let's talk about recruiting. So much, of course, was made out about next year's class, but this year's class, I mean, Hugh Freeze has been really high on him. Let's talk about recruiting. What have been the biggest wins? What have been the biggest losses for 2025 and 2026?
Well, look, last year, we know what the big wins are. Look at the freshmen that you had play. Last year, you brought in Cam Coleman, you brought in Malcolm Simmons. Those guys were immediate contributors. But they didn't necessarily have the quarterback play or the system to get them the ball as much as Auburn fans would have liked. In 2026, recruiting is coming along. Now, there was a pivot by Auburn after the ruling came down by the court saying that third-party collectives are going to be treated as any other third-party business. And this is important for those listeners who are listening to this and you say, hey, Mike G, what are you talking about here? Well, we all know there were huge changes to NIL. Part of that change in the House ruling was NIL Go, which is the clearinghouse for NIL. All deals are over $600 are to be submitted, and they decide whether those deals count toward your cap or not. Well, Auburn took a very conservative approach, assuming that maybe some of their collective deals would count toward their cap. Now that there's a good chance that they won't, they've opened the pocketbooks, and we saw them land Jacquez Wilkes recently, and then they just got Jace Matthews, the number 2 overall wide receiver in the country in the 2026 cycle. The On3 guys are reporting that Auburn has huge flips on the horizon here. So in the next couple of weeks, I suspect that they're going to jump into the top 25 in recruiting. It's a numbers game for the most part. They may lack the numbers to get into the top 10, but it will still be a solid recruiting class that fills exact needs. And that is the important thing. With the advent of the portal, you have a chance to go out and maybe get some things that you missed in recruiting. But You've got to establish a strong base from high school. Hugh Freeze believes this. He says a long-term sustainable winner is built from high school recruiting, and the portal is not the way to build a sustainable winner. And I agree with him. I think that you need guys that you bring in from high school and that are in your system 2-3 years and then go on to the NFL. That's becoming less common with the new transfer rules and the portal and all this stuff. But I just think that Auburn has never been a hard place to recruit to. And once they have proof of concept, meaning they've got wins, Nick, I think it's going to get even easier for Hugh Freeze and the staff.
You segued into it perfectly, my friend. Let's talk about wins. 2025, 2026. I don't know if you've made it officially yet on your podcast, but if it's got to be unofficial, that's fine. But as of right now, what is your prediction for the 2025, 2026 season in terms of record, postseason, what have you?
Funny that you asked. We do a segment called Boss Toss Loss. The boss column are the guaranteed wins. In the toss are the, we don't know. And then there's the loss column. The only game I have in the loss column for Auburn this year is Georgia. Now, there were 5 games in the toss column, and I expect that Auburn is going to win some and lose some. That's going to put the Tigers at 8-4, which is right where Hugh Freeze needs to be to erase questions about the trajectory of the program. I'll tell you, if they have their quarterback 8-4, will feel a little disappointing. My official prediction is 9-3. I think that they finish that first 6-game stretch 4-2, and then they go on that win streak that we talked about, 5 straight wins after Georgia. And maybe if there's a disappointing loss in there, I would not put it past the Tigers to pull out the Iron Bowl at home in Jordan-Hare. A little Auburn Jesus action to end the season is just what Hugh Freeze needs, man, to keep expectations high headed into 2027.
All right. Auburn kicks off the regular season August 29th at Baylor. It's at 7 p.m. You can watch the game actually right here on FOX54, which will lead into First Down Friday Night, our high school football show right here on FOX54. That is Mike Gittens. He's with Auburn War Report. He is also with Locked On UCF. So if you want to check him out on that channel, you can as well. He's part of the Tegna family. Mike, thank you so much. Let's have a great football season.
Thanks for having me, Nick.